Killing a best friend out of jealousy. Opening fire in a classroom out of rage. Burning and dismembering a body in order to remove any evidence of the crime. Why, though, do they do it? And what penalty is in store for them? A guy who transformed a straightforward Bible study into a terrifying massacre is the subject of our first case. Please remember to press like and subscribe if you appreciate this kind of real crime analysis, so you don't miss any more stories. Dylan Roof, June 17, 2015. In Charleston, South Carolina, 21-year-old Dylan Roof entered the Emmanuel AME Church. He wasn't rushing. He sat quietly and watched. Good-hearted folks were reading their Bibles and in serious prayer all around him. Nobody was aware. There among them sat that death. An hour passed. Then he stood up. A gun appeared. No warning, no hesitation, no remorse. 9 shots. 9 people fell. Among them was Reverend Clementa Pinckney, a man who had fought for racial equality. But to Roof, this wasn't just a mass shooting. It was a statement. He picked a black church on purpose. Because they were black, he killed them. The next day, he was not afraid. He felt no embarrassment. Instead, he stated calmly, "I did this to provoke a race conflict." He didn't think of himself as a killer. He saw himself as a man on a mission. He received a death sentence in January 2017. He is still living today, nevertheless. 9 victims were never given another chance. However, their killer is still alive. Has justice truly been served? Willard Miller, November 2, 2021. Fairfield, Iowa. Nohema Graber, a dedicated Spanish teacher, was taking her usual afternoon walk in the park. But this time, someone was waiting for her. Willard Miller, 16 years old, a kid who should have been worried about his homework. Instead, he was thinking about murder. Why? The air. A body hit the ground. But Miller wasn't done. He hid her body under a tarp, believing he had erased all evidence. But he forgot one thing. No crime is ever perfect. Their text messages exposed everything. The police read them. And that was the end of it. In July 2023, Miller was sentenced to life in prison. For the next 35 years, he won't see liberty. How many others are like him, though, is the true question. Over a grade, are teenagers willing to kill? Fairweather James, Essex, England, 2013. He didn't murder to make money. He wasn't hateful when he killed. He wasn't even vengeful when he killed. James Fairweather killed to experience the sensation. He was different from most killers. His motivation was unclear. He liked killing, so he did it. His first victim was 33-year-old James Atfield. Fairweather came up to him and produced a knife. 102 wounds from stabs. No opportunity to defend yourself. No pleas for mercy heard. And Fairweather? He felt exhilarated. A month later, he struck again. His second victim, Nahid Almania, 31 years old, stabbed to death while walking along a quiet footpath. This time, police started to see the pattern. A serial killer was on the loose. The hunt for him began. But Fairweather, he still thought he was untouchable. He planned to kill again. But this time, police got to him first. When he was arrested in 2015, he showed no fear, no tears, no remorse. In April 2016, he was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum of 27 years before he could seek parole. But the question remains, does a killer with no motive deserve a second chance? Morgan Geyser, May 31, 2014, Waukesha, Wisconsin. 3 12-year-old girls walked into the woods, but only 2 came back. Morgan Geyser and Anissa had planned to kill their best friend. Their target? Peyton Luton. The reason? A sacrifice to Slender Man. These weren't cold-blooded killers, but they believed that if they didn't kill Peyton, Slender Man would come for them instead. And then, Peyton fell. The first stab. She panicked. The second stab. Her eyes filled with fear. 19 stab wounds in total. Her body lay bleeding on the ground. But miraculously, she was still alive. Despite her severe injuries, Peyton crawled out of the woods, where a passing cyclist found her. She survived. Geyser and Wire were arrested the same day, but when police asked them why they did it, their answer shocked the entire nation. We did it for Slender Man. Not for hate, not for money, but for something that wasn't even real. In 2017, we were sentenced to 40 years in a mental institution. No prison, no death penalty, just 40 years to be treated. But the scariest part isn't the sentence. It's the question if a child can kill over a delusion. How many more are out there just like them? Rachel Schulf and Celia Eddy, July 6, 2012, West Virginia. Skylar Nees, 16 years old. Snuck out of her house at night to meet her two best friends, Rachel Schulf and Celia Eddy. She never came home. Schulf and Eddy had planned this for weeks. They didn't kill for money. They didn't kill out of anger. They killed Skylar just because they didn't like her anymore. The three girls drove to a secluded area. Skylar had no idea that in the trunk of the car, there was a knife and a change of clothes. She got out of the car, still laughing and chatting. Then one of them gave the signal. 50 stab wounds. She fought, but it was useless. Blood covered the ground. She gasped for air. But with each passing second, her life slipped away. Schulf and Eddy left her there to die. Then they drove home as if nothing had happened. But secrets don't stay buried forever. The entire town was searching for Skylar. Police investigated. The pressure became too much for Schulf. And in January 2013, she confessed. She led police to Skylar's body. Schulf was sentenced to 30 years in prison with a chance for parole after 10 years. Eddy received life without parole. They were supposed to be best friends, but because of a petty grudge, they took away a life that was never theirs to take. Mackenzie Sherilla, July 31, 2022, Strongsville, Ohio. A car races down the road at 100 miles per hour. No brakes, no attempt to stop. Just one path and a solid brick wall. Mackenzie Sherilla, 19 years old. She's in the driver's seat. Beside her, her boyfriend, Dominic Russell, 20 years old. Their friend, Davin Flanagan, 19 years old. But Mackenzie never intended for them to leave the car alive. And she didn't give herself an escape route either. The car slammed headfirst into the wall. A brutal crash. When authorities arrived at the scene, Mackenzie survived. But her two friends died on impact. Police investigated. What they found changed everything. This wasn't an accident. Security footage captured Mackenzie accelerating with no sign of braking, deliberately driving straight into the wall. In August 2023, she was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. One reckless decision, one fatal crash. And now, has no way back. Dexter Darnell Johnson, 2006. Houston, Texas. Maria Aparice, 23. Juanico, 17. Two young people with their entire lives ahead of them. A monster happened to cross their path. Dexter Darnell Johnson and 4 of his associates. He didn't stop there, though. They had been pushed into a vehicle, driven to a remote location. Aparice was attacked by Johnson. Then there were 2 shots. Juanico and Maria Aparice never returned home. Johnson received a death sentence. However, his punishment has not yet been executed 17 years later. What began as a robbery turned into a terrifying night. Does Johnson deserve to remain alive? And why has his sentence been delayed? And why has his sentence been delayed for so long? Fernicia Torres. 2018, Georgia. William Tanchez thought he was meeting someone in private. He walked straight into a trap. Along with Nicholas Evans and C. Miller, had it all planned out. They lured Tanchez to a remote location, pretending it was a personal meeting. But when he arrived, he realized Evans pulled out a gun. 1 shot. That was all it took. Tanchez lost his life over a cell phone. The case is still in court. But the question remains, Will justice be served? And do these killers deserve a second chance? Gregory Ramos, November the 2nd, 2018, Dubarry. A 15-year-old boy. No one could have imagined. Gregory Ramos was scolded by his mother for bad grades, but instead of taking responsibility, he chose to get rid of her. Ramos strangled his mother, Gail Clevenger. She fought. She tried to escape his grasp, but he never let go. And when it was over, he didn't panic. He didn't break down. He called his friends to help stage a phase of domestic burglary. Ramos played the grieving son, acting devastated over his mother's death. But the truth always comes out. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. A teenager killed his own mother over a grade. When he walks free, 25 years from now, will he still be a threat? Krista Gale Pike, January 12, 1995, Knoxville, New York. Krista Pike, 18 years old. Colleen Slammer, 19 years old. They were classmates in a job training program. But between them there was no friendship. Only jealousy turned to bloodlust. Krista was convinced that Colleen was trying to steal her boyfriend. And in Pike's mind, there was only one way to settle it. Murder. That night, Krista lured Colleen to a bar. She was a young girl, but she was not alone. 2 accomplices were waiting. The torture began. Kicks, taunts, carved into Colleen's skin. Before finishing her off, Krista carved a pentagram into Colleen's chest. And when it was over, she took a piece of Colleen's skull. Krista was arrested just 30 days later. She was sentenced to life in prison. The evidence? That same skull fragment found in her jacket pocket. She showed no fear, no regret. She boasted about the murder to her fellow inmates. She relished in what she had done. In March 1996, Krista became the youngest woman in modern U.S. history to be sentenced to death. 28 years have passed. Krista is still alive. She passed. She's still waiting for execution, but Colleen will never return. Austin Gregory Myers, 2014, Waynesville, Ohio. Austin Gregory Myers, 19 years old. He wasn't a seasoned criminal, but he had a plan. He wanted to steal a safe from the home of Justin Back, an 18-year-old high school student. It seemed simple. But for Myers, theft wasn't enough. He and an accomplice broke into Justin's house. But instead of just grabbing the safe and leaving, Myers gave the order to kill. 21 stab wounds. Justin never had a chance. Afterward, they dumped his body into a river, convinced no one would ever find it. But police didn't take long to track them down. And when Myers was arrested, he showed no remorse. He was sentenced to death, all for the sake of a safe. Justin lost his life. And Myers? Now he waits for lethal injection. Conrad Schaefer, 2013, Osceola County, Florida. 15 days. 2 victims. A 15-year-old who became a serial killer. Conrad Schaefer didn't kill for money. He didn't kill out of hate. He killed because he liked it. First victim, David Guerrero, 17 years old. A quiet morning. David was walking to his bus stop. Then, David collapsed, dead on the spot. Police had no suspects. And for Schaefer, it was much more thrilling because of that. After a few days, he killed once more. The second victim, 22 years old. However, this time, he wasn't content with a gunshot. He and his partners entered Eric's house, bound him, then, in front of his girlfriend, shot him. Schaefer stayed put. His killings were a source of pride. He cherished his role as a killer. He was apprehended by cops. The match was over. He received 2 life sentences without the possibility of release. Who wasted his life? For the excitement of murder. Alec McKinney, May 7th, Highlands Ranch, Colorado. At STEM School, Highlands Ranch. Students walked the halls. No one knew. A nightmare was coming, and his accomplice, Devin Erickson, had a plan. They stormed into a classroom, guns drawn. And then, Kendrick Castillo, 18 years old, lunged at them. He was shot and killed instantly. 8 others were wounded. Chaos erupted. But police arrived faster than they expected. McKinney and Erickson were in custody. Then came the chilling confession. McKinney wasn't sorry. He admitted. He wanted to kill as many people as possible. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. In just a few minutes, a classroom became a battlefield, and Kendrick Castillo never got the chance to graduate. Michael Shane Bargo, 2011, Summerfield, 15 years old, walked into a house. He had no idea he would never walk out. Michael Shane Bargo had planned this. This wasn't a random act of violence. It was a carefully set trap. Seath was lured inside. The moment he stepped through the door, they attacked. A baseball bat swung. A gunshot rang out. Bargo fired once, then twice, then 3 times. But Seath wasn't dead. He tried to crawl toward the door. They dragged him back inside. Bargo aimed one last time. A bullet to the head. But the violence didn't stop there. They beat him, shot him again. Then, they dismembered his body. And then, they burned the remains in a fire pit. They thought they could cover up their crime. But evil leaves a trail. Investigators pieced the story together. And Bargo? He was arrested and convicted. In 2014, he was sentenced to death. No second chances. Alyssa Bustamante. October 21, 2009, St. Martin's, Missouri, 9 years old, went outside to play. She never came home. When her relatives filed a missing persons report, no one anticipated that her murderer was a girl of 15 years old. They were local residents. Hatred was not the reason behind Alyssa Bustamante's murder. She didn't kill in retaliation. She killed to experience what it was like. In the woods, she had excavated a grave. She lured Elizabeth outside. No effort. She only took a knife out of her pocket. The initial stab. Elizabeth went into a frenzy. The second stab. Her eyes filled with terror. The third stab. She collapsed. Blood soaked into the leaves. Alyssa buried the body and went home. She wrote in her diary, "Killing people is amazing. It's unbelievable." Police followed the trail of evidence. They found Elizabeth's body. Alyssa was arrested, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 35 years. A teenager who killed out of curiosity. But the real question is, will she still be a threat when she gets out? Jakayla Ashanti Williams, August 2023, Dauphin, Alabama. A baby was born. Jakayla Williams, 18 years old, gave birth alone at home. No family, no hospital. And instead of seeking help, she placed the newborn in a dumpster outside her apartment complex. A helpless life discarded. No defense, no second opportunity. When the baby's remains were found, police started looking into it right away. After being taken into custody, Williams was accused of first-degree murder. However, she asserted, "I didn't intend to murder my child." Postpartum psychosis is the argument put forth by her defense team, a mental illness that may result in delusions and postpartum emotional distance. She is still incarcerated in Houston County Jail, a child who was never given a shot at life. Can we forgive her? Last words. These teenagers had their whole lives ahead of them, but they made a choice to become killers. These cases remind us that criminal psychology knows no age. One wrong thought, one reckless decision, and a life is lost forever. So what can we learn from this? A single mistake can destroy not just one life, but many. Violence is never the answer, whether it's out of anger, jealousy, or simple curiosity. What do you think about these cases? Do any of these offenders deserve a second chance? Or do their crimes justify their fate? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy deep dive crime analysis like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a case, because crime never sleeps, and there are more chilling stories to uncover. See you in the next video.